Future Trunks took all the fun. Ranch deserves a slice of that past pie. Hey guys, MasakoX here. A few months ago, I felt like doing a little special which covered a potential addition to the Future Fellowship. Why was that exactly? Well, back in the day, I used to try and keep things simple and only use the standard Future Trunks model from the original timeline when we considered the future and the past and all that. Just some kind of basic thing that multiverse theory was a thing, so the Future Trunks line would not change. I mean, quite frankly, who is to say that this timeline would change along with the idea of Raditz turning good and the like? Now that I actually have a little more experience when it comes to storytelling and writing these types of stories, I feel a little more confident about making something different. And after loads of you saying that you were sad to not see a future Ranch in this story to interact with present Raditz, you were right. I will admit that. It was time to think about the idea of what if the history of Ranch was a thing? You know what? This adventure was a pretty good time. Well, I say good time, it's the future where Android 17 and Android 18 decimated pretty much everything and in a rather twisted way, so as good as can be expected. Raditz had to be the one to help carry a lot of the remaining Z fighters, so he got to do some stuff, and then it fell to future Gohan, as we know. It was a major undertaking and something quite on the dark side, and something which seemed quite challenging. And in the end though, what we needed to do was come up with something that just worked Ranch into the story which seemed genuine. In the last part, we pretty much covered the entire plot of the history of Trunks, now sprinkled with some what if Raditz turned good goodness. We added some extra content prior to the present day, where Ranch and Trunks were teenagers, to show that Gohan didn't just turn into the de facto leader of the gang just because. It was Raditz that initially took charge, and he made the effort to save as many people as possible when the android struck, with his more cautious nature really adding to the survival. It turned out okay for a while, but then things fell apart, and not even the likes of Raditz in a Super Saiyan form could save him and Launch and quite a lot of people. Ranch and Trunks had to carry the future once Gohan was gone. And I will say that the likes of the user Chancellord has certainly helped inspire me, for these parts, to think of something with Ranch in it that seemed quite viable and interesting, as well as the design for her. Thanks, chum. So when we left off, Trunks had managed to convince Ranch to stay behind so as to not interfere with the past. At the time, they didn't know about multiverse theory and the like, that it would really matter, or at least he thought he convinced her. Turns out that she was much more stubborn than he had thought, and found her curled up in the time machine. He just basically rolled with it. Trunks. So the two of them are going back to the past to warn them about the future, so long as Ranch doesn't interfere and just stays in the time machine as Trunks does his thing. Now something tells me that Ranch won't listen to that. So we cut to the middle of the time portals or whatever wibbly wobbly time stuff that the time machine has to go through so as to get to the past. Ranch and Trunks are squeezed tightly together and contemplating what they will find in the past. Ranch kinda remembers the early days before the androids, as she was a toddler when things weren't as bad, shortly after her uncle Goku passed away due to the heart virus. It seemed nice, but not for long though. Trunks though has no memory at all, he was just a babby. One thing's for sure, whatever they're going to will be a lot better than where they're coming from, especially with Ranch right there to be his support. He tries to act all manly, trying to sound cool, but Ranch just cringes hard. Jeez, what's wrong with you? Does time travel make you sound dorkier than usual? She playfully taps his shoulder as best as she can, given the restricted space in the capsule and all. After a brief silence, they can then sense that they are about to arrive in the past. Age 764, a year and a half after Goku became the first Super Saiyan in living memory. Earth is peaceful, and yet something big is about to go down. Ranch and Trunks haven't even opened the time machine hatch, and immediately they are swamped with negative energy, which is of course from the likes of King Cold, Mecha Frieza, and a swarm of Frieza minions. Then there's the whole bunch of energies that they don't recognize all that well. Well, except for two, Gohan and Papa! Trunks immediately turns to Ranch with a serious expression. Ranch, you cannot interfere. Only I can do this. In fact, I distinctly remember that Mom specifically said that you weren't meant to come. Well, why not? Because you would just barge in and make a mess. You're not exactly the most careful person going, Oh, come on. I'm not gonna make a mess. Trunks just looks at her as if to say, really? After more toing and froing, Trunks senses Frieza beginning to flex what's left of his muscles, and the time is right for him to do his thing. Now, in terms of the story, this is set slap bang in the middle of part 3 of What If Raditz Turned Good, for anybody who was curious on where it exists in the timeline. And as Trunks starts to do his cool routine with Frieza, Ranch just simply ignores Trunks' pleas to stay in the time machine and goes to take a closer look at the Z-Fighters, but at the same time remembering to suppress her powers, much like how Trunks was doing. Huh. Show off. As it's clear that the gang are transfixed on the tussle between Trunks and Frieza, Ranch is inching closer and closer to the group to get a good look at them. Bulma and Gohan she recognizes quite easily, but wait, there's Papa! Oh yeah, this is right where he and Vegeta weren't as big enemies as they are at certain points in the story. But hang on a moment, this thing isn't right. Where's Launch? Her mum. Oh hello, what are you doing there, stranger? Ranch wheels around and is startled, falling backwards on her butt. There's her mum, she's right there. Mind your own business! Good Launch is here, and clearly she was bored with the postulating that was going on and had instead noticed a girl just weirdly sneaking around for some reason, trying to look stealthy. With Ranch being a good 6 feet tall and quite well built, she's not hard to miss visually speaking. Hiding energy, sure, but hiding yourself out in the open in the middle of a wasteland, not so much. Are you with that strapping young lad over there? He seems pretty strong. Are you strong, dear? Ranch gets up and dusts herself off and tries to roll with it, but then it hits her. This is the first time that she's been near her mother for over a decade. The urge to hug her and bawl her eyes out is intensifying right now, by the second in fact, but she did promise not to meddle in the past, and she had already sort of broken this by even engaging with Launch. If she held her own and made her way back to the ship carefully, she might just be able to get away with it without Trunks giving her a 2-hour lecture about the importance of not meddling with the past and time and whatnot. Hey, do I know you? Branch is now beginning to look quite pale. No, I'm not from around here. You look familiar. Your hair's like my hair, only... She touches Ranch's locks. Only spikier. Like my boyfriend's. Oh, you should meet him. Oh, curse Launch in her sociable ways when she's in her blue form! Suddenly, Trunks can be heard screaming as he turns into a Super Saiyan, and this catches Launch off guard. Now, this should be the chance for Ranch to get back to the ship without her knowing, but the power-up spooked Launch into sneezing, and then, Hey punk, who said you could leave? Oh no, you're not one of them goons trying to sneak up on us, are you? You look like one of them, you know, with the armor get-up you got going on. Are you about to try summon? Because I'm about to try summon. Launch plays with a side weapon and points it at Ranch. And even though Ranch can't be hurt by this, it's still pretty scary. Scary enough for her to lose her cool and her energy to waver. This catches Raditz's attention, who then realizes that Launch has gone walkabout. Ugh! Curse that woman! She always wanders off when I'm not looking. Oh, she's too pure sometimes. Raditz descends on the pair and is bemused by what he sees. Two women who look very similar. What's going on here? Ranch thought it was bad when it was just her mum there. Now Papa's here too? Well, she can't run now. What if Raditz knows Super Saiyan? Then there'd be no chance to escape, and the plan may fail. I'm with that guy. She points over to Trunks, who is busy turning Frieza into the contents of a meat pie. You mean the Super Saiyan is your friend? How? How is that even a thing? Kakarot is meant to be the only one. What gives? It's not fair. Raditz then grabs Ranch's armor. Teach me! I want to be a Super Saiyan too! If Kakarot can do it, then so can I! And since I'm his older brother, I should therefore be able to do it by default! Much easier! So teach me! Ranch manages to push herself off her father's grip. She tries to calm down the situation and explains that there is a reason that they've come here. She has no choice but to explain what happened and where they came from. Basically, what we're getting here is what Trunks tells Goku, but now with Ranch telling her parents. Only that they don't know that this is their future daughter speaking to them. She is at least able to keep that bit of information a secret. Raditz is struggling to comprehend this information, much like how Goku struggled to do so in the original. But, unlike him, Launch is getting the bigger picture. So what you're saying is that these two teenage robot dweebs go on a power trip across the planet in a few years' time? That Red Ribbon Army noticed the culprit what made them? Interesting. Thanks for the tip-off, Toots. She rubs her weapon with care. Ranch is looking a little worried. She hopes that her mom's not about to do what she thinks she's about to do.
Well, of course! If this Dr. Giraud guy can be stopped before he makes them, then there'll be no problem. But wait, how strong are these clowns?
You can tell that Raditz is tempted to resort to his cowardly ways of offing the creator as soon as possible, so therefore eliminating the problem altogether, but then his Saiyan instinct for a good challenge kicks into high gear, much like how Vegeta and Goku reacted when Bulma proposed a similar idea in the original timeline. Ranch decides to then roll with this and overhype the situation.
For the sake of the past!
Oh, super strong! That boy and I are the only survivors. Nobody else lived. It was a major catastrophe. We had to use up all of our remaining electrical power to get here to warn you all, so yeah, I wouldn't try anything. I still like my idea though. Launch is about to ready to take a bike and ride onto Giraud's place before Ranch grabs her hand. Please don't. Get your hands off me, you filthy Amazon. I said. Ranch goes Super Saiyan to demonstrate her seriousness. Don't. Raditz is amazed. A female Super Saiyan? Wow! Cool! He misses the emotional point here by a mile. If you go right now and take out the doctor, it could destroy the timeline as we know it. Something even worse could happen. That boy over there may not exist. I may not exist. The entire course of human history could be ruined.
It sounds like your future wasn't much of a picnic to begin with.
He spots Ranch's stern look. It looks just like Launch's. So familiar. And he knows better. I've spent my whole life trying to stop this. I don't want to be erased. To have all that we fought to protect to be taken out of our hands. I know you mean well. But please, tell no one of this. Or else you may end what you and him have just started. They only just started dating, you see. So they are still in the honeymoon phase. They wouldn't dream of breaking this whole thing off or ruining it or anything. Launch then just looks at Ranch, her yellow hair matching hers. One question. Me and the dingus over here. Are we a thing? Right until the end. Ranch looks at Raditz, who is smarting from the remark, but she turns back and nods. That's all Launch needed to know. You got it, kid. Now get out of here. If anyone asks, we saw one of them mirage-y things. Ranch powers down and heads back to the ship.
Hey!
Raditz calls out to Ranch. What?
It'll be okay.
Raditz winks. Ranch looks stunned. Does he know who she is? Well, she can't check because Trunks is about to go and talk to the group. She then decides not to respond and flies away. 3 hours later, when Trunks and Goku have finally finished talking to each other and the former heads back to the ship, he is then greeted by a snoring, fast asleep Ranch spread eagle across the floor of the time machine. Just completely, absolutely unconscious. Wake up, we're going home. Job's done. Ranch looks really tired and turns over, continuing to sleep. Oh good. I was asleep the whole time. So yeah, I'm gonna do that for a few more decades. Maybe not when we get home. The past is so boring. Trunks looks suspiciously at her, but decides to ignore it, and plots a course for home. As the ship rises up, Raditz spots it and silently thinks to himself, yeah, I think I'll stay here. And that's where we're going to leave things for right now. So what do you guys think? Did you feel that this was a pretty good way to have a retcon of the whole Raditz what if thing? How do you think Ranch's influence affects the overall package? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!